Good evening, one and all. We welcome you all to the international webinar series on holistic health, well-being, and sustainable development 2022-2023, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 75 years of independence, India's G20 presidency, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2015 to 2030 as part of awareness and campaigns. In collaboration with Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute Center for Art, Sciences and Wellbeing. Before we start our sessions, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
The blessings of Almighty, we shall continue with today's sessions. Today, we are commemorating International Day for Women in Diplomacy. Today, we are commemorating International Day for Women in Diplomacy. Why women matter in diplomacy? Women has been playing a crucial role in global governance since the drafting and signing of the United Nations Charter in 1945. Women and girls represent half of the world's population and therefore also half of its potential. Women bring immense benefits to diplomacy, their leadership styles, expertise, and priorities. broaden the scope of issues under consideration and the equality of the outcomes. Research shows that when women serve in cabinets, parliaments, they pass laws and policies that are better for ordinary people, the environment, and their social cohesion. Advancing measures to increase women's participation in peace and political process is vital to achieving women's de facto equality in the context of entrenched discrimination. Out of the 193 member states of the United Nations, only 34 women serve as elected heads of state or government. While progress have been made in many countries, the global proportion of women in other levels of political office worldwide still has far to go. 21% of the world's ministers, 26% of national parliamentarians, and 34% of elected seats of local government. So according to the new United Nations report, at the current pace of progress, equal representation in parliament will not be achieved until 2062. The UN General Assembly, in short known as UNGA, the world's largest yearly meeting of the world leaders, while the UNGA has been setting up for several historic moments for the gender equality, much has yet to be achieved regarding women's representation and participation. Just 4 women have been elected president at the United Nations General Assembly in its 77 years. So a lot has to be done within the United Nations itself, along with other member states, to fill this gap in gender equality in holding the top positions. The 15-member UN Security Council has primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security, while women currently represent slightly over a third of the Security Council's members, far higher than the average. It is still far from enough. Exploring the participation of women at the Security Council. Inclusive governance can result in policies that create positive change over the long term. Women, as we all know, are realists, but there are also realists who, while they keep their feet on the ground, also keep their eyes on far horizons. Global norms and standards play a key role in establishing benchmarks for the international community to abide by and for countries to implement. When we look at the background or history, the diplomacy has been the preserve of men. Women have played a critical role in diplomacy for centuries. Yet their contributions have often been overlooked. It's time to recognize and celebrate the ways in which women are breaking barriers and making a difference in the field of diplomacy. As of 2014, 143 countries guaranteed equality between men and women in their constitutions. Another 52 countries have yet to make this important commitment. Advocating for increased representation of women in key decision-making positions will greatly shape and implement multilateral agendas. Between 1992 and 2019, women represented 13% of negotiations, 6% of mediations, and 6% of signatories in peace process worldwide. Gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls will also make a crucial contribution to progress across all sustainable development goals and targets. The systematic mainstreaming of a gender perspective in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda is crucial. especially since SDG 5 calls for women's equal participation in decision making. At the UNGS 76th session, the General Assembly, by consensus, declared the 24th of June each year to be the International Day of Women in Diplomacy. By the resolution, the Assembly invited the member states, United Nations organizations, non-governmental groups, academic institutions, and associations of women diplomats, where they exist, to observe the day in a manner that each considers most appropriate, including through education and public awareness raising. There are 31 countries where 34 women serve as the heads of the state or government as of January 2023. Of the 5 United Nations led or co-led peace process in 2021, 2 were led by women mediators, and all 5 consulted with civil society and were provided with gender expertise. In 2022, the Security Council held its first ever forming meeting focusing on reprisals against women participating in peace and security process. In multilateral disarmament forums, wide gaps persist in women's participation, and women remain grossly underrepresented in many weapons-related fields, including technical arms control, where only 12% of ministers of defense globally are women. Even countries where there are more women in legislative and executive branches of governments have less defense spending and more social spending. Women who shaped the Universal Declaration, drafted as a common standard of achievement for all peoples and nations. The United Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, for the first time in human history, spells out basic civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights that all human beings, men and women alike, should enjoy. The Declaration is a milestone document in the history of human rights, drafted by the representative with different legal and cultural backgrounds from all regions of the world. Women were key contributors who played essential parts in shaping the document. Women's inclusion in peace-building process is essential for long-term success. This is proven gender equal participation contributes to longer and lasting peace after conflict. Susan Sabit, 32, is an accomplished lawyer and advocate for women's participation in governance and leadership. For decades, her home country of South Sudan has been overwhelmed by conflict. Because of the tireless advocacy of the leaders like Sabit, South Sudan's Peace and Progress engaged a coalition of 40 women's organizations in peace talks, leading to the inclusion of gender-responsive provisions in the agreement. A single moment can spark a revolution. Collective actions can transform laws. Creative expression can change attitudes, and an invention can alter the course of history. It's these threads or revolutions that weave together to propel the women's movement. Even in the face of obstacles, discover how some of these strands, big and small, have shaped the women's lives and the rights and lives of women and girls worldwide, as per UN Women Report. Since 1840, 1848, Senior Falls, New York, USA. A key moment was registered with First Women's Rights Convention. Indignant over women being barred from speaking at anti-slavery convention, Americans Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Moritz congregate a few hundred people at their nation's first women's rights convention in New York. Together, they demanded civil, social, political, and religious rights for women in a declaration of sentiments and resolutions. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men and women are created equal. The women's right to vote in particular is met with the dimensions of the public and derision by the public, but a powerful movement is born. Till then, since then, the Women's Rights Convention has spiked a lot of further movements. And at that time, there was no vote of right for women. It was only restricted to men. So at that time, across, even in most developed nation in US, women has been deprived of their voting rights. As we look at the word feminism, more than a word, feminism is a movement advocating for women social, political, legal, and economic rights equal to those of men. Its first document dates back to 1837 in France, where socialist Charles Fourier uses feminism to describe women's liberation in an utopian future. By the early 900s, it is associated with women's suffrage, but later evolves to carry more meaning. In particular, intersectional feminism draws attention to how women face different forms of discrimination based on factors such as race, class, ethnicity, religion, and sexual orientation. In her 1851 speech, Ain't I Woman?, American feminist and former slave Sojourner Truth draws attention to how women experience sexism differently. So the number of signatories in a monster 270-meter long suffrage petition presented to the New Zealand's parliament in 1878, soon after the New Zealand becomes the first self-governing nation to allow women to vote and inspire suffragists across the globe. 32,000 have signed in the monster 27-meter suffrage petition. The bicycle, as we know today, paves way for less restrictive clothing and a greater mobility for women in some regions. Today, we see especially ladies or women cycle that has become a two-wheeler miracle. That design, which also paved way for the women to use in their restrictive clothing, like women, especially when we see most of the countries, women wear or drape a clothes like sari or half sari, something similar to that. So where the men's cycles are not so suited for the women. So it also limited mobility of women, and that paved way with the design of girls and women's bicycles for females have paid for the greater mobility for the women with the existing clothing. So in 1900, 19th century, women of the world unite. And in 1911, a key moment, International Women's Day. A day was dedicated for the women, marked annually on 8th March, the first International Women's Day. In 1911, Hermeses, more than 1 million people across Austria, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland for women's suffrage and labor rights. In its early years, the day became a mechanism to protest World War I, most notably in Russia. A large women-led demonstrations breaks out demanding the bread and peace. 4 days later, the Tsar abdicates. Now a Russian national holiday, the day is what some historians believe ignited the Russian Revolution. In 1920s in Egypt, in the first known campaign of its kind, the Egyptian Society of the Physicians goes against tradition by declaring the negative health effects of the female genital mutilation, a practice that at least 200 million women and girls alive today have undergone. It takes until the late 20th century before the term FGM is globally adopted and the practice explicitly classified as a form of violence. Today, the UN grassroots women movements, civil societies, and others are working together to put an end to this practice. So doctors stand up for the stand up against FGM is a first of its kind in 1920s. In 1929, in Nigeria, incensed by their social standing under colonial rule, the Igbo women sent palm leaves similar to today's Facebook invite to their fellow sisters across southeastern Nigeria. Together, they descend in the thousands to sit on or make war on undemocratically appointed chiefs by publicly shaming them through singing, dancing, banging on their walls, and even tearing down roofs. Although the blackish against protest turns deadly, it eventually forces the chiefs to resign and market tax impositions on women to be dropped. It's a noteworthy Abbas women's riot in 1929 in Nigeria. Then and now, the changing world of work, World War I and II, drive women to take on untraditional jobs men had to wear as men head to war. A Western cultural icon of women war workers, Rosie the Riveter, have been reinterpreted globally as a symbol of women's empowerment. In 1945, Dublin, Ireland. What would you do without clean clothes for weeks? In 1945, Dubliners in Ireland learned the hard way. Tired of unhealthy work conditions, low wages, overtime, and limited leave, around 1,500 unionized laundresses go on strike. So we leave it all to you to gain what we are due. With the slogan, all went to all unionized laundresses go on strike. So commercial laundries get hit, a big business at the time. More than 3 months, a lots of dirty clothes. Later, the strike ends on a victory and gives all Irish women workers a statutory second week of annual holidays. So that's a noteworthy work hard, strike hard. In 1945, the key moment was the United Nations is born. Following the devastation of World War II, the United Nations forms in 1945 to foster international cooperation. Its charter enshrines gender equality. So we, the people, reaffirm faith in the equal rights of men and women. It is one of the many steps of the United Nations takes to lay a foundation for women's rights. In 1946, the Commission of the Status of Women becomes the first global intergovernmental body exclusively dedicated to gender equality. And in 2010, UN Women becomes the first UN agency to champion exclusively for women girls. In 1946, the memorable speech to the women of the world in the inaugural session of the UN General Assembly in 1946, American Eleanor Roosevelt famously reads an open letter to the women of the world, urging for their increased involvement in the national and international affairs. In numbers translated into more than 500 languages and dialects today, the landmark Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948, for the first time in human history, spells out the basic rights and fundamental freedoms that all human beings, men and women alike, should enjoy. A symbol of popular feminist resistance, the Mirabal sisters, Minerva, Maria Teresa, and Patria, also known as Las Mariposas, the butterflies, form an opposition movement to openly protest the dictatorship of Rafael Trujillo in the Dominican Republic. On 25th November 1960, the sisters are assassinated. The public outcry peoples the anti-Trujillo movement, toppling the dictatorship within a year. The day of their burial murders has been since marked on 25th November to raise awareness on ending violence against women. So these are the noteworthy, unforgettable butterflies in 1960. The number of women representing a tenth of the nation's populations who gather at the Iceland's capital, Reykjavik, in 1975 to protest economic inequality. The Women's Day off puts the city services, schools, and business at a virtual standstill with 25,000 members. In 1970s, a first International Women Year, the first UN decade for the women, and the first World Conference on Women in Mexico escalates global discourse on women's rights, and a first activist marks the first activists unite. Dubbed as the Women's Bill of Rights, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, in short known as CEDAW, is the most comprehensive international instrument to protect the human rights of women and is the second most ratified UN human rights treaty after the Convention of the Rights of the Child, with ratifications from 189 nations. Adopted in 1979, the convention legally binds signatory governments to end all forms of discrimination against women in public and private life, including in the family, and aims to achieve substantial equality between women and men, not just in laws, but also in reality on the ground. more than a century since women's suffrage movement begins and decades of vigorous activism later, women in a vast number of world's countries can vote by the 1980s. In contrast, women are still fighting to take on leadership positions today. How far have we come? A long ladder at the top. If we see in 1955, 0% women in the highest positions of the state in the world. And in 1965, 0.8% with one woman in the highest positions of the state in the world. And in 1975, 2.7 with 4 women in the highest positions of state in the world. In 1985, 6 women with 3.7% women in the highest positions of the state in the world. In 1995, 12 women constitute 6.4% women in the highest positions of the states in the world. In 2005, with 8 women, 4.2% women in the highest positions of the states. In 2010, 15 women, 7.8% women in the highest positions of the state. In 2018, 19 women in the highest positions of the state in the world with 9.8%. In 1991, the Hippo water roller allows a more efficient means to transport clean water, easing the burden of rural women globally, often the main water collectors. That is a great invention and a time and water saver in 1991. That was a great boon for the women. And global norms and standards play a key role in establishing benchmarks for the international community to abide by and for countries to implement. The end of the 20th century is marked with a number of landmark treaties and norm-setting outcomes that have transformed the women's lives. In 1993, Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women, the first international instrument to explicitly address and define forms of violence against women. In 1994, a 23-year action plan that puts people and their rights at the heart of the development and recognizes women's sexual and reproductive health as a key to everyone's well-being, the ICPD Program of Action in 1990. A comprehensive framework adopted at the 4th World Conference for Women with a roadmap of actions under 12 critical areas to advance women's rights in 1995, Beijing Declaration and Platform for the Action. In 2000, UN Security Council Resolution 1325, the first UN legal and political framework to recognize that war impacts women differently and to call for women participation in the conflict prevention and resolution. In 2000, with UN Millennium Declaration, a set of 8 time-bound goals unanimously adopted by the world leaders to end poverty with a 15-year deadline. In 2015, the world reflects on the progress and gaps and develops its next transformative agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals. That's how the transition from Millennium Development Goals to Sustainable Development Goals. So with the 20th century, from hunger strikes and human chains to petitions and memes, activism comes in many shapes and forms to provoke change. Similar to the advent of the printer, radio and television, the internet and mobile phone have dramatically transformed the landscape of how people campaign. Some scholars caution that passive involvement online, that is slacktivism, will decrease active involvement offline. Okay, we all are little guilty, but with social media often being employed as a means to organize, express outrage, and draw awareness to taboo or previously silenced topics, the women rights movement might be proving otherwise. But a word of caution: today, social media is also highly abused, misused, and controlled by the elements which are creating, controlling the masses. We have seen even the US elections, how the social media giants like Facebook has turned out or changed the opinion of public in favor of a party. So social media with the control can persuade people and change the opinions against anyone. The power of social media. So that's why a holding, it's like, holding a wealth in few hands, like these social media giants is holding the power of opinions of the people, because they are the ones, they are the gatekeepers who decide what to allow and what not to allow. So only those which they think are needed as per their interest or vested interest or business interest, they allow only such, limiting the freedom of expression. In 2003, in Liberia, a mass action for peace, a relentless civil war impels thousands of Liberian women to form a movement. Driven by the activist layman Chibo, the movement employs various tactics, most notably a sex strike to pressure their men to partake in peace talks and sit on peace negotiations by women who threaten to disrobe as means to shame and prevent male delegates from leaving without some resolution. So the movement is so successful that it ends a 14-year civil war and leads to the election of Africa's first woman head of the state, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. So this has been a greatest weapon or a strategy or a method used by women since ages, by not allowing men in sexual activity and going on a sex strike. So even if you see in families also, when the woman wants something to be achieved or some demands to be solved, that is an easy way for them to get into control. So this has proved even in 2003 that it could end 14-year civil war and led to the elections of the Africa's first women head of the state. So that's the power of women. And in 2006, Uttar Pradesh, India has a noteworthy movement, the Gulabi Gang, Justice for Women. In northern India's poverty-stricken Banda district of Uttar Pradesh state, then a handful of bamboo-wielding women take matters into their own hands. And when they hear of a neighbor abusing his wife, together they intervene, forcing the husband to acknowledge the abuse and put a stop to it. The modest movement on domestic abuse later snowballs into a statewide one. Today, a gang of tens of thousands of women dressed in pink, gulabi, collectively tackle social injustices against women in the state and are inspiring similar upsprings in the nation. The power of media, as already mentioned, Media plays a powerful role in shaping attitudes and opinions towards women, and it is at the same time a window into how women are viewed. While sexism in media is still plentiful, and now we have seen in various movies and web series that is widely prevalent, women is seen as a commercial, sex commodity, and women is portrayed in a highly objectionable manner where women is seen drinking, smoking publicly and having, sex with multiple partners and extramarital affairs. That also affects how people or the population or the citizens of the world look at the woman as a commodity rather than a human being. So in this regard, women's, though they have a different approach, but women's have to be more cautious. And also, I think this is going to be the different kind of feminism movement that women and girls have to soon take it up, because, the way the media is portraying them as a sex dolls or, a sexual commodity or an entertainment commodity is highly objectionable, irrespective of whether it is from male or female counterpart. So along with the males, it is a high time that women also raise their voice and opinion and put an end to such movies and web series and other ads, especially virtual ads and media ads and campaigns online, which are challenging these very stereotypes and also promoting such kind of activities. And from the Arabian Peninsula to the capitals of North Africa, streams of women vigorously protest for their rights as a part of broader uprising. The Pan-Arab movement, the outcry thrust women into the global limelight, challenging perceptions of them as passive. This determination is not new, though. In Morocco, tribal soul elite women continue to fight their land rights. In Tunisia, activism propels gender equality being enshrined into the nation's constitution. And in Lebanon, campaigning leads to a controversial rape law being scrapped. So challenging that status quo was a key movement in Arab states since 2011 onwards. In 2013, United Nations, New York, USA, has seen memorable speech. It's a moment that wakes up the world. The attack on a school girl and education activist, Malala Yousafzai in Pakistan, surviving a gunshot wound on the head and neck, making her first public appearance at the United Nations on her 16th birthday in 2013, has created a huge impact. The estimated number of people worldwide who attend the Women's March on 21st January 2017 in solidarity for the women's rights. It's one of the numerous mass upsprings that mark the decade, including in India, following the gang rape of a student across Latin America after a succession of femicides, and in Nigeria, following the kidnapping of almost 280 schoolgirls. So a huge number of 3.5 to 5 million participated worldwide in the Women's March. In 21st century, the rise of digital activism, the hashtag #SayItAll, women and girls want a free life or life free of violence and a gender equal world. So the famous hashtags that are trending related to women are Sandy Unlet, Everyday Sexism, Ni Una Menos, Kula Voltache, Time's Up, Bring Back Our Girls, Women Should, Me Too, Balanced on Pop, Feminist Friday, Yes, All Women, He for She, Yo Tambe, Anakaman are the trendy hashtags which tag the women issues. And the time is now. And UN Women, United Nations Women, is putting efforts to end this gender gap. So with this, we shall end this commemoration and we shall move on to other commemorations for the day. And I think more in the present day context, women are becoming vulnerable, and maybe women are being able to overcome these stereotypes thinking. But again, in this Western culture, or not just limited to the West, but also across the world, women are becoming more and more vulnerable on the other side because they are seen, they are portrayed as sex commodities or, a kind of products on the media, in the advertisement, in the movies, in the web series, which is highly objectionable. So I think women and men both together have to raise their voice and, again, take up activism to end this kind of portrayal of women and girls in a highly objectionable, immoral, unethical ways of projecting them. On the media. Then today, we are also commemorating various other important days. Today, we are commemorating ARRL Field Day, which is specifically US, but is very much relevant to across the world. Hope we all have heard of amateur radio. That was a kind of communications, earliest communications. And in times of emergency and disaster management, our amateur radios come into rescue. Even in my college days, and I was also very passionate about this amateur radio. I was also a life member of various societies which were promoting these amateur radio activities, especially among youth and children. So this reminds me of my school and college days. So ARRL Field Day is commemorated on the fourth full weekend of the June every year and is an opportunity for thousands of amateur radio enthusiasts throughout the US and Canada to set up temporary communication stations and make contact with like-minded people. Licensed radio operators, often called as AMs, spend their weekend practicing community outreach, emergency preparedness, and technical skills. It's basically radio heaven. You can communicate to anyone in the world for free with just low-cost equipment. And today, hams are equipped to access internet and transmit digital content as well. But it is regulated within the nations under certain protocols. You have to be trained and you need to obtain a license. That doesn't cost much. It's just a couple of hundreds of rupees, not even. It's a very small amount, negligible amount. And once you are trained in that, and basically the training involves the use of equipment, the Morse code, which is the basics of like alphabets. We have every alphabet that dits and dashes to transmit. And the rules and regulations and the frequencies and the technical aspects, which is very simple to learn if you have an interest or passion or aptitude towards it. A contest is held every year with individuals, clubs, and teams trying to make contact as many as stations as possible over 24 hours. Field day will take place on 24th and 25th June with over 35,000 people, or 3,000, ranging from 3,500 to 35,000 people expected to take part. It begins at 1800 UTC Saturday and runs through 2059 UTC Sunday. So pack your campaigning equipment if you are a ham radio user or an operator or enthusiast. Throw up some temporary antennas and spin the dials on your radio, because this is not to be missed event rich in history, tradition, and technology. The first ARRL Field Day was held on the second Saturday in June 1933. The winner of the contest was W4PAW. This is the license code they give, like we have names. We all have names. Every operator, licensed radio operator, is given a code, a name like this. It's a randomized alphabetical and alphanumerical code that is assigned to each member, which is unique across the world. So that's how we communicate with each other on ham. And the first contest, which was held in 1933 in June, was won by the person who was allotted the code name W4PAW, who has scored 1,876 points. So the initial event organized by F.E. Handy was such a hit that the amateur radio community that it became an annual tradition. With 1942 through to 1945 being the only years that field day hasn't been held due to World War II. At that time, World War II was happening. So those years, it did not happen from 42 to 45. But after that, again, it continued its tradition. For many, the big draw of field day is a competition, a high frequency dash to make contact with as many stations as possible across the world. The rules state that if setup commences before the contest starts, then participants have 24 hours to chase their contacts. Whether those who commence setup as contest started have 27 hours. In 1968, the rules were changed and it became mandatory for everyone to set up within the 27-hour time frame. But the change proved unpopular and it was readjusted again in 1969 to the rules that use today. Each station will exchange information with other participation stations. Station can be set up by anyone, those who are having the equipment and those who are trained. It's like radio TV station, but you don't need much equipment. You need just a simple antenna and a ham radio with a small that runs on the small battery, even 9 volts, 12 volts battery also. That is enough to power up the station for even that, a week also, because that station consumes very low power. It's very negligible power. And again, it depends on the antenna, basically antenna and the equipment. So that is very low power consuming equipment. So you don't need much power. You can just carry one battery and you can spend whole week long communicating across the world. So that is the greatest advantage. And each station will exchange information with other participating stations. From the North American Field Day, the exchange consists of the station call sign. Yeah, as I mentioned, the alphanumeric code, which I have mentioned earlier, is known as call sign. The name of the ARR recognized section from which the station is operating is called grid square, and a call designator, which indicates the type of location and where is that, whether it is in a vehicle, even it can be operated from anywhere, literally. You can operate from cycle or car or, in mountain. That is a very portable, equipment. And it can be operated from anywhere, even outdoors or within indoors or in a home. So the number of people operating and the number of transmitters being used, plus information about the type of electrical power source connected to conventional or emergency sources, like as I already mentioned, batteries or solar generator or wind, etc. Even if you have a solar panel, you don't need batteries as well. Of course, it is also equipped with solar panel and a rechargeable battery that keep charges in case of lack of sunlight. And the event is now widely sponsored by the International Amateur Radio Union, IARU in short, and has begun to spread its wings overseas in many countries. And the contest portion of Field Day has two purposes. The primary purpose is to test the group's ability to plan operations that can be effective for an entire 24-hour period, including operator endurance and adequate number of operators for a shift operation. The secondary purpose is to demonstrate the technical proficiency of the station that has been quickly constructed for the contacts. In theory, a better station will be capable of emergency operations in dire conditions, such as a station will also be capable of making more contacts during the contest portion of the field day. And point systems are structured to motivate emergency preparedness activities, such as designating a safety officer for the station or incorporating auxiliary power capabilities. So basically, this also promotes the hobby and also profession, and at the same time, it keeps the workforce or the force active and also demonstrates its proficiency in operating such stations. We see in times of floods or in times of disaster, even our governments and local, collector offices and various other, disaster management units and also other rescue units, they carry these ham radios apart from satellite radios and other things. They set up station and communication to easily communicate around. And although many amateur radio enthusiasts work hard to win the contest, in their entry category, the social side of the event has grown over the years too. Camping and cookouts are commonplace with those operating the radios in rotating shifts to keep the station on the air. As you know, it is a 24-hour or 27-hour campaign. So you can also have, along with this ritual of operating and communicating, you can also have this wonderful outing, because it has to run for around the day, that is 24 hours. You need to operate in shifts, at least 8 hours a shift taken as standard shift. So at least we need 3 people minimum, one to communicate and one to operate or at least one person also can do it a little bit, more proactive. Otherwise, it's generally taken up by a group of people. It can be minimum two uh, to a maximum of a good considered small. So field day is frequently used to attract significant publicity for amateur radio. And some clubs simultaneously demonstrate technologies including the single sideband voice, Morse code, older and new digital modes alike like RTTY, PSK31 and FT8 and among others, and even two-way communication via the amateur radio satellites. Now we have a lot of amateur radio satellites which are dedicated, and we have satellites that also provide amateur radio services, connectivity, bandwidth. So we can directly connect through satellites if you have an satellite phone, amateur phone. Otherwise, if you have the older ones, we can also set up antennas and communicate stations, and we can have stations and start communicating without even this. So the first event was organized in 1933. The first ARRL field day is held on the second Saturday on June in June in 1933. As already mentioned, the event was temporarily suspended due to World War II, returning in 1946 since 1942. And for the first time, a team makes more than 10,000 contacts during the contest. So within that 24-hour period, this was a landmark year in 1976 that one such station which has taken place or taken part in the competition has been able to contact 10,000 contacts within that 24-hour span. See, that's how, we keep contacting many contacts across the world. Though basically this commemoration is restricted to US and Canada, but even worldwide it is also popular. And across all the countries, now it is quite popular. And the pandemic, the global health pandemic, led to the event organizers declaring it's time to adapt, encouraging participants to try a new approach to their station for the field day 2020 to meet the public health guidelines. Even in COVID time also, it was conducted following the health guidelines. So now you might have understood ARRL field day. It's basically on the field, because wherever we are, that is the field, and that is where we, set up the station and start communicating to the known contacts. So that is what, and the field day is an amateur radio event in June, that is now. The event serves as an emergency preparedness test as well as a contest between radio enthusiasts across the US and Canada. And also, of course, now it has spread to across the world. And amateur radio operators participate from locations throughout the United States and Canada. And if you never really played around with radio communications, this is a perfect time to do so. Not only is knowing how to operate a ham radio is a useful skill to have, but it is also a great learning experience, career stepping stone, and a lot of fun too. You might be surprised to learn that many SpaceX engineers are also ham radio operators. So do some research online and find a local club to help you get a license. We have in India, National Institute of Amateur Radio, which has branches in almost all the states, which is headquartered in Hyderabad. They also offer various training programs regularly. So those who are interested, even school students also, those who are interested can go there, get it trained. They have all the equipment in place. So you can go there, learn. You can also learn online. There are a lot of simulation softwares available for you to learn. Morse code is available freely. You can Google it and you can download the Morse code, which is, the dots and dashes representation of alphabets, because we need to communicate, right? How we will communicate? We cannot write and show them. So we use the Morse code to tap, like alphabet A, it represents a series of dots and dashes. Dots means a beep, like a second beep, and dash means a beep that goes on for 2-3 seconds. So that's dot and dash. So if you know anyone who takes part in the ARL field day, or you can make contact with the team, then you can also camp out and join with them. At least if you don't operate also, because you need a license, you can experience how the entire process goes on. And it will be a great opportunity to learn about field day and pick up a few radio tips while you are at it. You can also assist them. And it will be, a great experience. And listen to fun on a shortwave receiver that you might have at it. Many people actually have a multi-band radio that can pick up shortwave frequencies. All you need is a long piece of wire attached to the antenna terminals on the back of the radio. So go ahead and search for the amateur bands for conversations during the contest. And as already mentioned, we have call signs. You may have noticed that contest winners are mentioned earlier had team names. Actually, the names are known as these alphabetical. I have mentioned one code. No? It's called as a call sign. Every person who has a license gets once who qualifies, they get a license, they get a call sign. That is how we are able to communicate, recognize. So once the person dies, the call sign also dies. And even of course, there are very few popular call signs. Even after death also, in their memory, they are being operated. But that's a different issue. That's an exception. So you may have noticed that the contest winners we mentioned earlier had team names that just seem like a random selection of letters and numbers. As I mentioned, alphanumeric code is allotted to each licensed radio operator. So, this is called their call sign, and every licensed amateur radio operator is given one. So, want to learn more about amateur radio operation, but don't know where to start? Then you need an Elmer. Elmer is the name given to an experienced radio operators who offer a mentor those who are starting out. So he is nothing but a licensed radio operator. As I already mentioned, those who are in India, those who want to learn, National Institute of Amateur Radio is a central government, is an institute that conducts operations and all, under the Ministry of Telecommunications and also Home Ministry. So I will also provide information on that. And apart from that, the original amateur radio operators used only Morse code. Initially, as I mentioned earlier, because we didn't have at that time the technology to have transfer digital images or content, we used only Morse code. So that is dots and dashes. To save time, many abbreviations were used. So for example, if we are talking to a special someone, we could sign off with the number 88, which means love and kisses. So like that, we had some, this special abbreviations. we use shorthand in writing, na? In a similar. It is estimated that around 2 million hobbyists participate in amateur radio. That's a huge community to join, learn from, and make few friends. Over 100 years ago, some of the amateur stations are very powerful, and commercial radio operators, frustrated with amateur radio on air interference, began referring amateurs as hams. Ham was a derogatory slang word derived from the phrase ham actor. Amateurs adopted the word and began using it to describe themselves and their hobbies. See the positive attitude, positivity. Though these commercial operators, radio operators and TV operators and other these operators termed this community as ham. So they use this word and, made it proud and used to describe themselves as a hobby. So we all love ARRL Field Day. It has been ongoing for almost a century and continues to carry on these strengths of adaptability. It's great to see traditions like this presently dealing with current COVID-19 situations, while continue to provide fun education and emergency preparedness as it continues to be passed along and trains future generations. Amateur radio enthusiasts from a friendly community, ARRL Field Day isn't just about the radios and the contest. It's a chance for friends and family to spend some time together, whether physically or virtually, and do some activities that everyone enjoys. And this is the aspect of ARRL Field Day, that it is very important to our safety. When disaster strikes, when all our mobile networks, internet services go off, what we have to do? That's where amateur radio operators are always on the scene to help spread crucial information across the world, provide coordination, and help in many other capacities across the country. Cell communications are not immune to disasters. We have seen many times when these cyclones and when certain disasters affect, even cell towers stop working for hours together, days together, and sometimes they get destroyed partially or fully. So at that time also, with simple one antenna, a pipe-like antenna and a cable and a small equipment and a handheld radio with a 9 volts battery or a 12 volts battery, you can operate the station and you can communicate across the world. And what you need? As simple, you can just carry in a lunchbox pack entire station with you. So I was talking about National Institute of Amateur Radio. So this is their objective is to exploit easily available national human resource and frequency spectrum to provide cost-effective solutions for faster economic development of far-reaching proportions, and an alternative national network on communications and IT for proper coordination, use of skilled resources. So these are the ones who train school children, college children, and even other even government public servants and volunteers, NGOs, hobbyists, and everyone. And amateur, that is ham radio, is a topic in school syllabus also of CBSE 10th class and Department of School Education, that is class 9, Government of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. That is part of curriculum and syllabus because it's part of emergency services and disaster management. And amateur ham radio operators provide effective second line of communication during major calamities, because at that time we may not have the popular communication services up. So National Institute of Amateur Radio is a non-government organization founded by the famous, very well-known Mr. S. Suri, with a call sign, as already mentioned. Everyone who is licensed radio operator who passes the exam conducted by the board. So his call sign is BU2MY. At Hyderabad, it is a public society on 21st June 1983. So encouraged by the government of India, several state governments and World Bank, etc., NIAR is established to spread awareness of amateur radio activity among the people in India. So NIAR, National Institute of Amateur Radio, will be addressing us in short. NIAR has its office, library, lab, museum, club station, conference hall, classroom, QSL bureau, guest house facilities along with staff quarters in its campus. And all the activities are organized from a very well-established, eco-friendly, spacious buildings owned by NIAR in the heart of the city of Hyderabad. And NIAR conducts awareness and training programs for the amateur station operator license examination regularly. Those who want to, as a hobby, you need not be a profession or a professional radio or station operator. As a hobby, you can learn. And NIAR also conducts seminars, meetings, workshops regularly. NIAR has a full-fledged club station with the call sign VU2NRO in its premises, which is active regularly. Its members have received many awards of achievements for participating in contests from this station. So those who don't have own station setup, you are always welcome to visit NIAR. And special call signs are also being used from here from time to time also. And NIAR assists schools, colleges, institutions, universities, individuals, etc., to form their own amateur radio clubs. If you are interested, you can also contact them. So they will be assisting you in training and also establishing amateur radio clubs in your university and institutions. NIAR conducts expeditions to the rare Andaman and Nicobar Islands with call signs VU4 and the Lakshadweep Islands VU7 from time to time. The Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Service, in short known as RACES, wing of NIAR, is always ready with equipment and manpower who volunteer to assist the local administration in any kind of emergency, natural or man-made disasters or calamities. The technical wing of the institute encourages volunteer amateurs to construct their own homemade transceivers, power supply, and antenna. They also teach you, as I said, it's a very low-cost income that doesn't cost you even 1,000 rupees also. That's a very, you can construct your own station, you can construct your own antenna, receiver, everything. There are a lot of kits also available on the net. You can buy them and you can make it on your own, or you can buy it ready-made, assembled one. So it's a lot of fun. And NIAR regularly publishes ham news and also study material, brochures, etc. for those interested in ham radio, and is also active in its website, Yahoo groups, Facebook to convey messages to its members and others. And it has sponsored many members to several international meetings, conferences, hamventions, which are exclusively dedicated for hams and seminars. It interacts with government agencies for promotion of amateur radio in India, and the electronic media and press has been quoting APARS and NIAR activities extensively because they were actually taking part at the time of disasters and also in promoting awareness and education. the electronic, several prominent leaders, eminent persons, and HAMS people, all walks of life from India and abroad have visited NIAR and appreciated its activities. A people's movement in information technology is launched by NIAR, and at NIAR, we thank all its members for rendering their enormous support and encouragement to all its activities over the years. So NIAR has reinstated its commitment in nation-building activities by service through amateur radio. So in brief, I will provide you. So you might have the curiosity now how to become a ham. So any individual above the age of 12 can become a ham in India after qualifying an exam in amateur station operator certificate exam. It is an exam conducted by the government of India, by the respective ministry. The Office of In Charge Wireless Monitoring Station, Department of Communication, Telecommunications, under the Ministry of Communication, Government of India is the authority for conducting the examination in their own town, provided there are sufficient number of applicants. So you can write in over in the same town if there are minimum number of applicants. So we have two grades of license. One is restricted grade, which is permitted use of medium power, that is 1 hour exam. And we have general grade permitting use of higher power, which is of 2 hours exam. And the syllabus consists of basic electronics and communication procedure. And the exam is of objective type. So it covers basic electronics, because we are dealing with the transistors, this radio, simple, what is diode, transistor, transformer, and battery, all this. It's very simple, not so ready-made study material is available. There's 1 or 2 books you can buy and easily crack the exam. It's not a big deal. Even school children crack easily. So for you, it will be very easy. And the syllabus consists of basic electronics and communication procedure. And also it's objective type, and it is very easy again. You need not remember everything. You choose one of the, correct answer. And to qualify in general grade, one must qualify in the Morse code at 8 words per minute. As I mentioned, every alphabet is represented in dots and dashes. So you should be able to communicate 8 words per minute. And it takes just a few weeks training to become eligible for the examination. Basic knowledge can be obtained by purchasing study materials, books, or Morse code from NIAR, online or offline. There are many ways to go about preparing for and taking your ham radio license test. And self-study, you can collect the study material and try to learn by yourself. A lot of information is available on the internet nowadays. So no need to worry. You need not buy also. But if you want to buy, then that is a very good option, because it is useful for you lifelong. And you can use the same material to create awareness and also teach others. For local clubs, for those that like a structured approach, many people don't like this random, unstructured approach of learning. They want to learn in a systematic way. So for them, many clubs organize classes to prepare people for their ham radio license test. And as I told, exam fees is very less, 100 rupees. Can you imagine? Just 100 rupees only. You can apply for exam and you can qualify, you get a call sign and you are eligible to operate. Very simple process also. So exam fees is 100 and the license fees for 20 years. You are going to have your own call sign and the fees to operate, how much it would be? Guess. It's just 100 rupees, 1,000 rupees for 20 years. And if you need for lifelong, then it's only 2,000 rupees. 2,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, you can communicate across the world freely. You can talk 24 hours also to anyone in the world, across the world using ham, because everyone is identified by a call sign that is unique. And you can talk 24 hours like you are using chatting, and there is no need to pay anything to anyone. And the beauty of the ham is, once you buy equipment, that is there for lifetime. And once you pass the exam, you get a call sign and you pay for the license. And see how much it costs. If for lifetime, it will cost you 2,000 rupees and 100 rupees for each grade. If you want both grades, it's 1,200 rupees and the material costs somewhere around. If you want printed material, it will cost you another 100 or 200. So with just less than 1,500, you have entire world at your hands. And you can operate freely, no need to pay single paisa also. More than that. That is the beauty, So now let's get up, have fun, but use it wisely. Many terrorist groups and many unwanted social elements also use this because, now that you have understood, it's very simple, easy to learn and easy to get license and easy to operate. And you can communicate to anyone on the, anyone, those who are with hams across the world. So often, the technology is always having the both sides, the positive side and negative side. Those who are using for betterment, they always use it for a positive side. And those who are using it for a destruction, disasters, are using it for negative side. But anyway, it's at the end of the day, the person who uses it and the intention behind it. So on this day, I wish you also soon get a license and use it for constructive purpose. So with this, we shall end the commemoration. So even the material is also available for free from NIAR website. I am sharing you the website address also, niar.org. If anyone is interested, you can go. There is also a life membership. At that time, I remember, it was 5,000 for life membership. It's a quite long time. So now I don't know how much is that, because at that time when I paid, I remember it was 5,000 or 10,000, 5,000 I think so. It was quite long back. So you can also join as a life member or in a similar, or whichever way you like to associate. That's a different. So thank you once again for patiently listening to this commemoration. This is a very important one. So then we'll move on to other commemorations quickly. Today is also commemorated as Farmers' Day in Peru. Farmers' Day or Dia del Campesino. Sorry if I have misspelled it wrongly. Is celebrated in Peru on June 24th every year as a tribute to the hard-working local farmers that provide food to the table of every Peruvian. Observers celebrate this day by holding agriculture fairs, cultural displays, and of course, the sharing of food. In the Amazonian region, Farmer Day is also celebrated in the tandem with the feast of San Juan, Bautista, Saint John the Baptist, as a nod to the Catholic tradition that was instilled by Spanish missionaries. So it was established in Peru in 1930 under the name Dia del Indo, Day of Indian, by then President Augusto B. Legua to honor Peru's indigenous people as a whole. So currently, agriculture in Peru only makes about around 13% of the country's gross domestic product. Yet almost a third of the population is employed in agriculture sector. There are also currently 2.2 million small and medium-sized farms in the country. As a result, Peru and neighboring Andean region are noted for their incredible agriculture diversity. It is one of the world's greatest producers of artichokes, as well as rice, bananas, grapes, sugarcane, maize, and cassava. Asparagus, avocado, blueberries, potatoes, pineapples, coffee, and cocoa are among the country's main agriculture exports. Peru's vital position is a global food supply system and is highlighted by the diversity of its output. Thus, Dia del Campesino is important as it is a formal appreciation of Peruvian farmers and agriculture workers and their efforts to preserve the land's biodiversity and support the economy. Today is also commemorated as International Fairy Day. Of course, superstitions and all these things are there, not only because those are not highlighted, because, these are guarded religions and they have, comparatively, the freedom is very less. They can't talk everything like in other religions, especially in Hinduism, you can see God is treated as a fellow, brother, sister, mother, father, friend. So we can also crack jokes on gods and goddesses, yad bhavam tad bhavat. However you feel and think now, you can imagine God as like that. So that is the greatest advantage in Hinduism. That's why, people also take liberty to criticize and or make fun of, in a sarcastic way. But in fact, that is the greatest freedom available in Hinduism. No other religion offers. You cannot make fun of Jesus in Christianity or Mary, or you cannot make fun of Allah in Islam or any. Is it possible? Have you seen any movies or, sarcasm on that? You will not be permitted. And if you do, what happens? Everyone knows. So in that context, I'm saying the freedom, we can say we have no freedom at all in that context. So that's how, we don't embrace the great even freedom. We talk about always freedom. I need freedom. I need freedom. But, the freedom which Hinduism provides, initially the Hinduism or the Hindus are the, oldest religion. In fact, many people converted from Hinduism to other. So even Hinduism, Hindu religion has promoted, their own choice. If you want to believe something else also, you can go. At the end of the day, you are believing in God only. Of course, you are giving some different name, or if you are giving some different shape, color. Anyway, it's up to you, whom you imagine. But at the end of the day, it is only the Supreme Soul. Maybe depending on one's maturity, one's understanding, one's awareness, one's knowledge, you can name it anyone. That's how, we have these so many gods. You yourself are a god because there is a God in every human being. You are also an instance of the Supreme Soul. Every human being, every species is part of the Supreme Soul. So that's how we believe in concept of Vasudhaivaka Kutumbakam. That's why we respect each other. That's how the greatest, the philosophy of Hinduism or the Sanatana Dharma. We believe every living being and non-living being as equal to God, and we revere and we worship even the stones, rivers, trees. Why? Because the same God which is within us is also there in the stones, in the plants, in the birds, in the animals. That is the greatest philosophical concepts that no religion offers. In fact, many of the religions are only for the people. The only Sanatana Dharma of the Hinduism is for everyone, including plants, living beings, non-being. These are not a religion because basically, to differentiate once these religions started to differentiate because they want a new name. And how will they differentiate or discriminate? They coined this term as Hindu and they started calling Hinduism and Hindus. That's how that Hinduism came. Hindu word or Hinduism never existed, or it was never created by Hindus at all. It was not mentioned anywhere in Vedas or script. It was created by people with vested interest. They just want to, it's like getting away, like a group of friends or group of family members getting divided. So they kept their own name and they want something to differentiate. So they named it as group, some X, Y, Z, like that. This word also came into. And, that has become, for discrimination or differentiation or for identification, whatever the purpose was. That's how this word Hindu or Hinduism came. But otherwise, there was no religion at that time. It was only Sanatana Dharma. Everyone belonged to one religion only. In fact, at that time, there was religious-less society. There was no religion, no caste at all. After these religions and these caste systems came, these were all created by human beings. So these are the blunders of human beings, these caste religions. And, we fool like fools. We keep fighting with each other in the name of this religion, caste, and all these things, which are created by us only. And we keep blaming our ancient scriptures, ancient knowledge systems like Vedas. Vedas never mentioned about any religion because at that time there was no religion at all. At that time there was no caste at all. Now, when there is no religion existed, when there is no caste existed, why they will mention? And what was the need? What was the purpose to mention? It was created by human beings with vested interest. Today also many religions, many castes are coming and to divide and rule. But in spite of being so much, we call ourselves as highly educated. And at the end of the day, we also, in spite of acquiring so much of education, we behave like fools and idiots. And we fight among ourselves that you are that religion, you are this religion, you are that caste, you are this caste. What is the use of studying so many years without acquiring a common sense or without having a common sense? Right? So all these, we are all human beings. Don't forget our religion all comes next. Only if you are a human being, then only religion comes. Religion cannot thrive without human beings being subscribed to it. If there is no person following religion, that religion will disappear. There is no existence for that religion. So human beings don't need a religion, but religion needs human beings. Because you can't, animals don't follow any religion. They follow Sanatana Dharma. In fact, everyone. That's why they are in always harmony with human beings. They don't, declare wars on and off with human beings. Have you seen any animal or plant declaring war? Because they follow Sanatana Dharma. In fact, we also have to follow. We have deviated from Sanatana Dharma and we have declared war on all trees and animals, plants. Today we have declared on the planet. So that's why this climate change, disasters, pandemics, nature is also struggling. What to do? We notorious criminals, human beings, we have declared war and we are waging war with the nature, environment, planet. And they are in defense mode. They don't want to fight with us. because we are also part of them. They know they are fighting with their own system, their own people, their own species. So that's why they are following Sanatan Dharma. So they treat us also as family members, but we human beings are, we lost our mind, we lost our consciousness. So that's where, we don't behave like a proper, responsible human beings. That is where we are violating our own rules and regulations. And today we have put entire planet and species into extinction. So all these things are, causing a lot of issues on the planet, in fact. So why we were talking about this is, International Fairy Day. Yeah. So this is basically a Christianity concept. So in those also, they think that the angels exist and, they come and they do something. So that is their belief. Of course, atheists can call that also as superstition or, anything. That's their atheist point. Of course, that's why I say every religion has a lot of superstitions, or they call, but they don't have that kind of freedom of speech and expression. So they don't talk it about. But in Hinduism, we have enormous freedom of speech and expression. So we criticize, others also take freedom to criticize and all those things. So we only see mostly, especially such types of, they term it as superstition or all blah, 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 blah. Only because only Hinduism offers this freedom of speech and expression. So no one kills you if someone says about, but in other religion, can you dare it? You criticize, what happens to you? Only God knows. That is the problem where you don't see, lot of atrocities, lot of abuses also keep happening in other religions. But nothing comes out because you have no freedom. You cannot come and say that I have been abused, I have been by anyone. Now, if you say, then you will not exist. You will be killed, you will be tortured, and you will be, not allowed again into and they see that they term you as, you are not even worth living, and you don't have any right to live also. Even they violate human rights also. Anyway, that's a different context. Why we are talking about it, that's everyone knows about it, in fact, but we, as everyone has their vested interests and they follow their own systems. Of course, we respect the individual choices. We are not bothered about that. So when we are talking about this, so though whether we believe or not, this is a commemoration. So we are talking about it. So there are, in this context, the idea behind the day was to appreciate and uplift the celebration of mythical creatures such as fairies, and to use their tales to teach valuable lessons to the children. So like we have Panchatantra stories, those are very much existent, real. But nowadays people think they are factual or created. This is lack of knowledge, and we also not promoting what is truth. Truth also has to be promoted. Otherwise people think, that because the false information is widely promoted. They are programmed on TVs, channels, and through public address systems. So people believe that is only truth because there is no one who tells the truth. So these creatures, fairies or mythical creatures, are believed to possess magical powers and generally considered to be female and have a significant part of resonance period in the Europe. So there are a lot of stories, especially these fairy tales, like people say angels come, do something and all. So a lot of legends are associated, and a lot of folklore and fantasy storylines have been discarded by ever evolving technology and gadgets, because people are now verifying, started verifying, and they also now are not believing, and they don't trust also, and they're discarding also, because there is, you have to show them, right? Angel, can you show any angel here or anywhere for that matter? Angel, they say that human beings are also, they come in the form of human beings, and again, so again, people don't believe that. If unless and until nowadays, people are not unless and until they see them. And if you are unable to show them, experience them through your sensory modalities, and it is physical object. That's why more of physical entities are happening. But anyway, it's left to their one's own belief, because we have right to religion and right to all those things. So everyone has their own right to whatever belief, whatever they want to follow. So that's the commemoration. And this is a common question. Are these fairies real? If you think that is real, it is real. If you do not think, they are not. As simple as. Now, no. If you think they are existing, God is existing, God is there. If you don't think God is not there, God is not there. That's all. A very simple answer for it. If you believe in God, if you think God exists, if you think angels exist, if you think fairies exist, they are existing. If you don't think they do not exist, then they do not exist. As I said, it is only individuals' belief system. If you believe it is there, it is there. If you don't believe it is not there, it is not. Then today, we are also commemorating Inti Raymi in Peru. This is Festival of Sun, is an annual religious celebration in the honor of sun god. For the entire world, no matter, as I was telling you, no matter what name you give to God, God is there. And what is God? As per Sanatana Dharma, or as per, to differentiate, as per Hinduism, all the nature is God. How our life's support system survive? With water, light, energy. Now water, rivers. These rivers like Ganga, whatever name we have. With rivers, without water, we cannot survive. And without sunlight, without heat, without temperature, can we survive? No, we cannot live in darkness, right? So that's why even sun god is celebrated across the world, because it is the source of energy. Even if you don't believe sun as a god also, it is a supreme source of energy. It is the energy. It is the light source. It is the heat source. So similarly, even in Peru also, this sun god, in the honor of Incan sun god, this festival celebrates the winter solstice. We have seen yesterday the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. We have two hemispheres. And as you know, we all have studied in schools also, that half of that, because Earth keeps rotating, so we have this day and nights, right? So in northern hemisphere, if it is day, the southern hemisphere, it is night. It is darker and lighter. So that's how these, solstice form, summer solstice and winter solstice. This all we have discussed in yesterday, day before yesterday, commemoration on Yoga Day, because that was the day of solstice, right? So on that day we have discussed. So it is also an important day for Incan Empire. Sees a variety of cultural activities taking place around the city to honor an Incan ancestry. So it was first established as a celebration by Incan Emperor Pachoti, believed to be between 1412 and 1430, to commemorate the winter solstice, the day when the sun is farthest from the earth, and to honor ancestors of the past. The Incas last celebrated Inti Raymi as an independent empire in 1535. So before the arrival of the Spanish, today the tradition of celebrating festival is maintained by the theoretical and cultural showcases that are charged with mysticism and spirituality. And today is also celebrated, commemorated as Jani in Latvia. It commemorates summer solstice. As I said, half side is darker, half side it is, the portion, the half of the portion which is exposed to sun, of the planet which is exposed to sun, is having summer. The other side it is having winter. So both sides, the half of the countries which fall on this side and the other side, this side they celebrate summer solstice, and that side they have this winter solstice. It's purely based on science, which part of the earth is facing the sun, which part of the earth is getting the sun rays. So it is a day that celebrates renewal, fertility, and hope of good luck based on ancient folk traditions. So Latvians partake in rituals that represent rebirth and life. It is considered to be one of the most important celebrations in the Latvian calendar, as many leave the cities to bask in the tranquility of the countryside. Jani was originally an ancient fertility festival that was celebrated after sowing the crops and before gathering the harvest. Like we have Pongal Sankranti festival. So because agriculture is everywhere, without food we cannot survive. Entire world, agriculture is required. No matter where people are, they need to have agriculture because they need to produce crops. Then only they will be able to eat and survive. And its origins date back far before Christianity and were mainly celebrated by farmers. After Christianization, after Christianity came, after Christianity started, Jani was moved to coincide with St. John's Day. So after this Christianity came, as I said, it's only different names. All religions are same only. Because they want a different thing, they kept it as St. John's Day. And even this got also New Day. That's why you see, if you see, Hindu religion, Hindu holidays, every Hindu holiday they will have, in every religion they have, in Christianity, they will have one other name and they will be celebrating a different ritual. And, they will be doing in a different way, basically. Every religion celebrates on the day, but they do ritual, they do everything in a different way, because that is where we show the differentiation, right? Otherwise, if everyone does the same thing, why there is a need of another religion or another belief system? So that's why they do it differently with the different things, all this. So it's a simple, it's a common sense. In temples, we see Veda recitation. In churches, we see Bible recitation. In mosques, we see Quran recitation. All is recitation only. But everyone has, because they want to show something different, they read it, they do it something different. So if we understand that basic common sense, that, based on people's interest, and they want to be different from already which are existing. So they keep creating new things, inventing, new things, and keep following to show that they are different from others. So that is what, creating a lot of these things. Anyway, that is not our concern or topic here. So during Jani, Latvians gather in the countryside to celebrate with loved ones. One of the main festivities include making bouquets and wreaths out of plants and wooden foliage. As per the tradition, has also light and jump over bonfires to welcome the coming sunrise and welcome fertility for their fields. Leaping over them is thought to bring good luck, and it is also considered to be the longest night of the year, mainly because the tradition dictates them to not sleep until sunrise. It is said that if one sleeps during the midsummer nights, they are doomed to be asleep the whole summer. So, which is another way of saying one will spend the rest of the year being lazy. So, during this nocturnal phase, celebrations are encouraged to talk with each other or walk through the morning dew. Doing so, believe will bring prosperity ahead. So it is also this season, today is also commemorated as Midsummer. That's meant to appreciate all the gifts that nature gives us. As the summer solstice marks the longest day of the year, that lands on June 21st. But because, again, we have seen these lot of calendars, Julian calendar and all these Gregorian calendars, all these blunders that happened when we commemorated these calendars. Everyone wanted their own calendar. So they created a lot of calendars and created a mess with all these calendars. And today we cannot measure the perfect time with any of the calendar. In every calendar has a lot of flaws and some days missing, some years missing. All these blunders we have seen, how these, were committed by these only for the reason to have their own calendars. So these, in this case also, old Julian calendar marked it differently and other calendars marked differently. That is again one more blunder that is created by our human beings. Even we don't follow the nature calendar also. So today is also commemorated as National Relationship Equity Day, especially ones that arise due to gender roles. The concept of assigning gender roles in relationships is becoming disturbing. This day aims to spell out the importance of suspension of the popular gender role phenomenon and adopting more welcoming, albeit unpopular gender equality concept. And this day is also about striking a balance between relationship roles and the freedom to exercise the individual skills of each couple to improve their relationship and their personal lives without restrictions. And today is also commemorated as National Summer Giving Day. After summer solstice, this day is dedicated to celebrating life, being grateful for our loved ones and bringing, especially this is commemorated in US, America. So it's also known as Thanksgiving food together. A number of people come together and it's a great opportunity to combine them into one big meal as come together and celebrate family with loved ones. Today is also commemorated as Upcycling Day in US. It is an international celebration of repurposing old items and upcycling them so that they are not wasted. Upcycling is a process of repurposing old recyclable items made of metal, glass, or wood into something new, thus giving the material a new lease of life. There are probably dozens of hundreds of items in your home office that can be upcycled. So why not take this advantage of this day to do so? As we have a very good saying, old is gold and gold never goes out of style, right? So use unwanted old items to give them a new life. So upcycling was coined in 1994 by two German engineers, William McDough and Michael Brongard, to describe the remodification and re-engineering of old items so that they can be reused and thus given a second life. The idea of recycling was already in place, with scrap metal, glass, and paper being recycled. What makes upcycling and recycling so different? Now, there is a difference between upcycling and recycling. Recycling is a process of destroying waste and repurposing it to make something new form. Example, scrap metal is melted, processed, and then used to make a new item. But upcycling is unique in that it uses waste in its current state to create something new. That is, you can make such as a flower vase from an empty bottle of wine or empty bottle of soft drink or cool drink or anything like that. You don't change the shape, or in upcycling, you use it as it is for a different purpose so that it serves a purpose. It is useful. But in recycling, you completely deform that and make a new product out of it. So that is the difference. So the benefit of upcycling is you can give raw material a second life without spending a lot of money on recycling, and you can also meet a current need with what you can make. So again, there is no need of anything. You just need to have some creativity and innovation and out-of-box thinking so that you can think of alternative uses of that product or material. That's all. Because we are often struck with in-box thinking. So we can't think of what is the alternate use of this product. Pencil means it can be used only for writing. No, pencil is also a tool to punch a hole in page, or it can be used as a rod or a kind of weapon also. To even with pencil, you can kill people also. You can punch a hole, and you can also use it as to bind some, and you can also use it as to hold two wooden blocks or some objects. So like that, you have to think out of box what else we can do with this as it is. So that is, how you can make best use of upcycling. Since the upcycling was coined, since then, the word has spread and the people have begun to use their waste in novel ways. The biggest trend was noticed in 2002 when it was finally decided to celebrate upcycling as a public awareness initiative to encourage the conservation of metal, glass, paper, and anything else that can be reused. So soon after, many other businesses followed suit, and with the rise of social media, a slew of new websites such as YouTube popped up offering ideas for repurposing common scrap. You can see this, especially this 5 minutes. 5 minutes YouTube channel is there. And there are many such channels. It struck my mind. I was just trying to recollect. There are many such channels. You can just watch and it will show you. If you see that, it will, that is very well taken. You can see how a product or commodity can be used in multiple ways and multiple purposes. You can also write, if you got any idea of alternate use of any product, you can also keep sharing, writing on social media so that others, if interested, they can use it. So since then, this day has been observed as a day to look for the items that can be upcycled into useful items while having fun, being creative, and conserving precious raw materials. So in 1690, linen and cotton rags are the first items to be recycled, introducing the concept of recycling to the world. And two German engineers coined the term upcycling and used it to educate people about benefits of upcycling in 1983. And upcycle gains traction and becomes a new trend, prompting the creation of a new day, Upcycling Day, in 2002. Since then, every year it is celebrated. In 2022, Upcycling Day marks 20th anniversary. So try to make a list of reusable scraps and use it to make something you need. Begin upcycling, look for new ideas, discuss among your friends, family members, and internet. And whatever you are doing, make it a video and post it, record it and share in media so that others also can make best use of it. Don't forget to use hashtags like hash upcycling day or, hash creativity, hash innovation, hash recycling, hash reuse. And according to a survey, 21% of the Americans upcycle the majority of the things that can be upcycled, such as clothes, boxes, and glass. Every year, approximately 17 million tons of textile waste are produced in the United States alone, 16.9 million tons of textile waste. Recycling was never cheap. It simply saved items that could be reused rather than thrown away. When you have nothing but scrap in front of you, it takes all of your mental creativity to come up with something new. If you succeed, it shows that you have a sharp mind. So it sharpens the mind. By reusing one product of old clothes or 1 pound of old clothes, we can avoid the production of 3 to 4 pounds of carbon dioxide gas. So 3 pounds of carbon dioxide is saved. Conserve what is precious. We cannot afford to use up all the resources and leave nothing for future generations. That's what our greed is doing now. We have become more selfish, exploitative, and we are consuming. And today, no forest, no glaciers, and we are running out of resources. We are running out of water, drinking water. What not? Because Earth has limited resources. Upcycling allows us to use these limited resources wisely and sustainably while conserving valuable raw materials. So you have been probably seen survival mode TV shows or movies where people scavenge for whatever they can to stay alive, right? So consider yourself in a similar situation and where you have scrap from your home or office and must turn into something useful. You have the materials, use your brain, use your creativity, and let's set go. So Tony Stark built an arc reactor out of scrap in Afghan cave, believe it or not. Forget about all being a billionaire, a playboy, a genius, or a philanthropist. He was essentially a mechanic who made things out of whatever he could get his hands on. So we are confident that you too can turn scrap into something useful and valuable. So finally, today is also, we are commemorating Swim a Lap Day. Swimming is, a wonderful exercise for the whole body. And it's an ultimate antidote to the classic summer conundrum. And since swimming or just floating is fun for everyone, since humans are not yet able to fly, swimming is the next best thing we can do, at least in water. Or just float. We cannot fly, but at least we can float on water, right? So just think back to the last time you were in pool or any other water body and felt that you had this weightless feeling of the water just carrying you. So you feel so light when you are in water. So if you trip down memory lane is not convincing enough, perhaps thought of staying cool without having to use up extra electricity will appeal to you more. For whatever reasons, for taking a dip, it's a great day to beat the heat and get some exercise. In all, while having a splashing good time, especially with those you love. So with this, okay, you might be wondering what is lap in swimming. In layman terms, a lap signifies a full round or a completion of course. In pool lingo, that is in pool language, the course is the length of the pool from one end to other. So a lap here is one full length of the pool, varying according to the size of pool size. In an Olympic size pool, a lap would be 164 feet, whereas in an American short course pool, a lap would be 25 yards. So basically, in a simple sense, a lap is, reaching from one end of the pool to other end and coming back from where you started. A complete one round of the entire pool from this end to that end, going from one end to other end and coming back to where you started. So this is known as one lap. So today we are commemorating this swim a lap day. That is, you just make one round, whole round of the swimming pool. And swimming saves lives. It is a whether it is a lifeguard training or a simple CPR course. Equip yourself to be able to deal with emergencies should they ever arise. We don't know when we'll need them. It's always better to be trained and ready. And for the opportunities are plenty. And you can volunteer at your local gym, school, pool, or water body. Don't know how to swim? Now, that's a great time to start learning now. So start learning, at least now. And these elephants are magnificent swimmers, are accomplished with long distance swimmers. There is a misconception myth also that heavy weight, we can't swim. See how much weight an elephant is. And they are very good swimmers. Like elephants, no one can swim. So so if you are obese, if you are overweight, or if you are fluffy, also don't bother. You can be the world's best swimmer. So just find a pool and take a dip in it. And be cautious if you haven't ever, done swimming. Make sure you are wearing life jacket or someone around to help you to prevent drowning. So elephants can swim up to 20 miles a day and they use their trunk as a snorkel. And orcas are the fastest swimming mammal, and this is why that is they can swim up to 55 miles per hour. And polar bears are champion swimmers. Records show that a polar bear swam 426 miles over 9 days straight to reach an ice floe. So these are champion swimmers. And many jungle cats like jaguars, tigers, leopards have proven to be excellent swimmers. Unafraid of getting wet. They are not averse to water. This blue whale is the heaviest mammal on the earth. It's very huge. And they swim with ease of a fish. See, in spite of being the largest animal on the planet also, it swims like a small fish, so easily. So don't worry what is the size of your body, what is your weight. Just take a plunge in the water. And it's a great exercise. We cannot say this enough, nor can the internet. Swimming is a great for your health and fitness. You do swimming exercise, you do swimming every day, 30 minutes, that is more than enough. No need of jogging, no need of push-ups, no need of weight, everything. You just do swimming for half an hour or 1 hour, that is more than enough. You will burn a lot of fat, and you will every organ, every bone, every muscle in your body is put to work, and you will stay fit and healthy. Not only it is a whole body workout, but it's also an easy on your joints and not as strenuous as other forms of cardio. So almost anyone can do it. Young or old, age doesn't matter. Age no bar. When it comes to enjoying this sport and game or hobby or a passion. And you can enjoy a guilt-free treat after, because anyway, after swimming, you will feel hungry because a lot of energy calories you have burned out. And there is no guilt also after eating, because anyone, if you are, swimming for 1 hour, half an hour, you'll feel hungry. That is a common phenomenon. And no need to feel guilty that I am eating again. And thanks to this, all calories burnt during your swimming. And swimming is the only sport that can help save a life, and that of your own or someone else. If that doesn't speak volumes, we don't know what will. It's a skill that is seen as essential to have that. In many countries, swimming is an integral part of national education curriculum. But unfortunately, today we are enslaved in the classrooms. We don't go out. We don't have swimming. Forget about playground. We don't have proper playgrounds. Forget about swimming pool in schools or colleges. Whether young or old or just plain lazy, swimming is one of the most popular forms of exercise among the public. And it can always be found in top 10 recreational activity list. As a formal sport, it has many competitions ranging from local to international, such as swimming as an Olympic sport. So with this, we shall end the commemorations, and thank you everyone for joining us on this day. Hope you have gained some wonderful insights. And those who have not registered for today's webinar, we request you to register. The registration link has been shared in the chat box. We are sharing it once again. It is mandatory. And we request everyone to fill up the feedback form for the day. Feedback form is only available in the Zoom platform. So first you can attend to feedback form, then you can fill the registration form. As the registration form, it can also be accessible from the chat box and also from the website. And also you might have received the invite message. In that also registration form is available. So no need to worry about registration form link. You can fill the feedback form, which has been raised in the form of polls. Thank you everyone for joining us. See you all tomorrow. Take care. Good night.